Welcome back, grieving friends. And this episode, we're going to talk about the loneliness that often comes with grief and how friendships can change. There's often silence from others, and just that feeling that life keeps moving on and you're really sad about it. So, welcome back, fellow grievers. And again, this episode, we're going to talk about loneliness because I do think this is one of those things that is just unavoidable with grief. And it really caught me off guard as well. And I really think too, there are things that we can do about it, but oftentimes we want others to do something about it. And that can lead us to feel even more lonely or like people don't care. So, again, grief is one of the loneliest things that we can go through. And it's not because people don't love us, it's not because people don't care. It's really because no one else is carrying that exact loss that you're carrying. And I know this to be very true because when my parents died, I kind of thought my brother and sister would be able to relate more to me because we went through the same thing. And yes, outwardly, we went through the same thing, but interiorly, we did not go through the same thing. We each had different relationships with our parents. We each had a different perspective of how we grew up, even though we all grew up in the same household, really close together, not many years apart. But we just had different experiences. And that's human. That's human life. We all view things differently. And then when you add grief on top of it, it makes us feel like something's gone wrong, or that people don't care, or that they're just trying to dismiss us or push us aside. And that is so painful. It makes us feel worse. And so, first, I just want to say that people often really don't know how to respond, right? And I'm not saying that's okay. I'm not saying that it's like all of it's placed on you, but I'm just saying that like people really don't know how to respond. And I know too for me, a lot of people were just curious, especially around my mom's accident. Like people just wanted to know. People are just curious. And I find myself sometimes too being like, "Oh my gosh, I wonder what happened," or "They were so young." And it's like, "Oh, like it's really not my place. It's not my thing to figure it out, but I it's just my humanness coming out." And so, again, this can make us feel very isolated, but people really don't know what to say. And then people, after a funeral, they just go on with life, right? And for us, it feels like the world just stopped turning. And people don't think about that unless they've been through it. And even then, I can say that I have been through it, and I'm not always the best at following up with everybody because again, my life is just busy. So I try to have compassion for others. Sometimes it is hurtful and it hurts a lot. Um, but I do try to be compassionate that everybody is emotionally different. Everybody handles things very, very differently. And so I don't want to have this episode being about bashing people, right? And saying like, how dare they? But we often think that. We often feel that way that how dare they? I thought they were my friend. Of anybody, I really thought that this person would be here for me, and they're not. And again, that just feels so crushing. It feels so lonely because we have expectations of what that friendship means to us and how we thought they would be there for us. But then when you break it down, and if I were to ask you, like, well, how would you want them to show up for you? Sometimes, most of the time, we don't even know. We're just like, well, I don't know, but not like this, right? So, so it does feel very isolating. A lot of times too, even if we are around people, we feel lonely. We are there physically, but emotionally we are disconnected. And we might put a smile on our face and pretend like everything's fine when we know that it's not. And we really think family and friends will kind of see through that mask that we put on. And then when they don't, we're upset. But then I've also had it where people do see through that and they want to they again in the best meaning ways they might ask questions or they want to talk about my parents or their death as especially like early on it was just like I don't want to talk about it, right? So I just want us also to be realistic on the reality that sometimes no matter what somebody would say or do, we are still going to be upset about it. We're still going to be angry about it. We're still going to say, well, this shouldn't be done that way. And again, from my personal experience, I know this because there have been times where I'll go someplace, I'll go to a family gathering, and nobody mentions my parents at all. Nobody says anything, and I'm upset because nobody said anything. Then the next time I go, and they do say something, and they mention my parents, and I'm upset because I didn't want them to say anything. And so just knowing that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not really know what you want or need from people. But then it's our job to then be like, okay, and I was bad at this too. I would lash out at my husband, or I would get short with my kids, right? Or I would get busy in something and then or procrastinate and wait till the last minute and then it would be everybody else's fault, right? So like knowing that and looking back and be like, okay, in hindsight, yeah, no matter what people would have said or done, I still would have been upset or sad, and that's normal. But then on the follow through, I didn't have to lash out at others. What I could have done is I could have sat with my sadness and really been like, okay, well, next time, maybe I can bring up my parents. Or maybe I can just pull somebody to the side and say, hey, can I just have a hug? I'm really, really sad today. So knowing that also sometimes relationships can change because sometimes they deepen. Sometimes there is that friend that really reaches out and is there, and you feel that connection, and you feel like, yeah, I can talk to them. And when I talk to them, like they are very understanding. They just listen. They don't say the cliche things. They really are just there to hear me. But other times, the relationship can fade. And this can feel very painful on top of already the grief you're going through. You then might experience grief of a loss of friendship or of a loss of a relationship. And and then we can build up some resentment towards that person because this wasn't the support that I hoped for or I was looking for. And so I think that is also our role is to say, okay, I'm learning that not everyone can carry grief with me. I'm learning that not everybody can handle my grief well. And so, do I want to pause this relationship? Do I want to continue the relationship, but maybe only on days that like I feel okay enough to handle like I don't want to say their emotional baggage, but a lot of times like the people that I kind of had to kind of pull away from a little bit were the ones that it was a lot of times a lot about them and their struggles and the things they were going through. And I just wasn't really at a place to hear those things because my whole world had ended. And they thought it was a huge deal that, they didn't find a great parking spot or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, maybe I just want to put this relationship on pause for a little bit. Maybe I'll still reach out and I'll like go and have coffee, or maybe just want to like, hey, for the next few months, if they reach out to me, no, I'm busy. And because I know that I don't have the emotional capacity to be a support to somebody else. And not judging myself for that, but just loving myself through that and saying, it doesn't mean my friendship has to end. It just means it looks a little different for the time being until I'm ready. And so sometimes too, it can be easy to isolate and withdraw because it feels safer. It feels like we're avoiding certain situations. We we like to tell ourselves the belief or the story that nobody understands. And so again, sometimes it is healthy to set boundaries and say, no, I don't really want to be around this person because they're more emotionally draining, but also recognizing, oh, like I haven't really done anything in 8 months. I go to work, I put a smile on my face, I come home, I'm exhausted, and maybe I need to start reaching out to somebody. Maybe I need to talk through things with somebody. Reach out to one friend, right? And be like, hey, I really feel sad today. Or even just say, hey, like, can you just listen? Like, I want to call and I'm just really having a really sad day. Can I just like kind of vent to you for 10 minutes? And I don't need fixing, I don't need healing, I just want to vent, right? And sometimes it's okay to like text the person beforehand and say, hey, can you do this for me? And just say your expectations on it. And if they say no, I can't do that. I'm having a hard day. Then okay, thank you. But don't let it make you self-isolate even more. Don't make it you pull you away from trying again and reaching out. And and to notice that difference. And that is something that internally we can feel. And it just takes practice. It takes a little bit of practice to keep working through that and be like, okay, am I isolating because it's what I need right now? Or am I isolating because I really have just shut out the whole world and I'm kind of in just trying to survive day to day, buffering, not really reaching out, just isolating in not a good way. So bring that to prayer also. I think the Lord helps us and nudges us in the way that we should go, and and He'll be there for you. And I also think too, like Jesus experienced such loneliness. I talk often about in the garden before the crucifixion, and I just I know it sounds weird. I really draw comfort in knowing that Jesus went through a worse suffering and a more intense loneliness than I ever will because he felt completely cut off. And I know that I always can turn to God. I always can cry out to Jesus. And sometimes it's in anger, sometimes it's in resentment, sometimes it's in just complete sadness. And but I know that he's there, right? We don't like God is always there. We are the ones who move farther and closer to him. So I know that he's always there waiting for me. And if that's not where you're at today, that's okay too. But I do want you to leave you with a few little tips or tidbits, right? And I think the biggest takeaway that I hope you get from this is to just start reaching out to somebody because we were made for communion. We were made to share our burdens and our sorrows. And again, most humans cannot handle it. But I guarantee there are humans that you can reach out to and connect to. And I know this because I am one of them. I am one that you can just hit reply to if you get this through email. You can go to my website, catholicgriefcoach.com, and you can email me there, or you can book a free consult call and you can just come and talk to me for 30 minutes. So I know that it's not true that you have no one because you have me. And if you are listening to this podcast, that means you were led here for a reason. So reach out to someone, anyone, a pastor, a priest, a friend, me, a grief coach, just somebody. And just a small connection can make a big difference. Also, as we are starting to head into summer, the weather is warming up finally here in North Dakota. I just want to remind you guys that it is okay to say no. It is okay to not have a Pinterest perfect summer. It is okay to take it easier and just be home and be like, okay, for this week, I'm going to be present with my kids for 15 minutes. We're going to play a board game, or I'm going to sit and cuddle with them while I watch a TV show, or I'm going to go outside and I'm going to throw a baseball around with them for 15 minutes for the whole week, right? Like little small steps forward, right? My whole goal with this podcast is how can we get 1% closer? 1% closer to God this week, 1% closer to feeling healed, 1% closer to having grief, but not feeling like we are drowning in the grief. So just 1%. And I think too, a big thing to understand and realize, especially with summer coming up and the different things, is just that your capacity for things has changed and shifted. That doesn't mean you love your family any less. That doesn't mean you love your friends any less. It just means that your capacity is less for this time. And it will get better because I know this because I am almost 7 years out. And there are times, like I podcast a month or so ago, where I'm like, I was just I felt like I was cut off at the knees, where I was just caught off guard by how I felt around my dad's birthday. So those days still happen, but they are fewer and fewer and fewer and farther between. I just did a talk at a local church this past week, and I talk about my story, about my parents dying, about my marriage and the financial infidelity and with my husband, and it really was one of the first times I've only given that talk twice. The first time I did it, I almost like started crying. I started crying every time I was practicing it. But this time, when I was reading through it again and kind of prepping myself, it's like, okay, like it didn't bring as much sadness. And of course, I'm still sad. And a lot of people were at this parish like knew my parents and my mom especially. And afterwards, they all just were like, "Oh, like we knew your mom." And like I just felt so comforted by it, but I didn't feel the overwhelming sadness that I have for the past 6 years. Okay, so like I say that just to give you some hope to say it does get better. It just takes longer than we think it will. And so if you are far in this journey, or it feels like you're far in this journey, maybe you're 10 years out, that's okay. That's okay. It does take a long time. And that's part of our journey that we are on. So I also want to encourage you guys um, like I said, to reach out to somebody um, and just open up a little bit. Just see if you can just share a little bit of your life. Again, I find that anytime I do that, I feel lighter, I feel better. And granted, I don't do that with everybody. I kind of pick and choose who I open up to. Just last week, I kind of talked with somebody from our church about my marriage, my recent marriage struggles and how hard that's been. And I just felt lighter afterwards. And part of me was like, oh my gosh, now she's probably judging me and like thinking, but like I kind of squashed that very quickly. It was like, no, you felt called to share in that moment. And so it's a good thing that you shared. It's always a good thing when we reach out and share. And again, sometimes there are certain humans that don't respond the way we think, but I find that if I keep trying to share a part of myself with people, it is usually more rewarding than anything. So I just wanted to let you guys know that you are not alone in your feeling isolated and lonely. This is, again, a very, very common, normal thing with grief. And so, with that, pausing and reflecting this week and saying, okay, who can I reach out to? Who can I share my struggles with? And knowing that you are not a burden, okay? You're not a burden. I always feel, again, a little bit of a twinge of guilt or nudge of like when I feel like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be asking people, I shouldn't be saying this, I should like, but then I just quiet that voice because that's not of God. That comes from either my own insecurities or the evil one, right? And I know that God made us for community. I know He made us to share. And the more I share, the more I talk about my struggles, the more other people feel they can talk about their struggles. And I just feel closer. I feel so connected with people. And it just makes me really love all humans, wherever they're at, in whatever stage of life they're at, and whatever journey they're on. I just love them all and just see how good God made us. And it's so beautiful. And so that is my wish for you this week. As you maybe feel lonely, I challenge you to reach out to just one person. And again, if you really truly feel like you don't have anybody in your life, because I do know there are people that is their circumstance and situation, please feel free to go to catholicgriefcoach.com and book a free consult call or just email me. Just shoot me an email. Sometimes they go in my junk, but I try to check that. But you can email me at catholicgriefcoach@outlook.com and I will get back to you 100%. So, all right, you guys, You are loved, and we'll take the next steps together. God bless.